Hello, Gold participants and listeners from around the world. I'm Kristen Schwartz, licensed midwife and MC for Gold Learning. And I'm here today with Nancy Williams. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you, and hello to everybody.
I'm so glad to have you here, and we want to be chatting about your presentation here for Gold at the Gold Lactation Online Conference 2019. You have a very exciting topic for us in store. But before we go into the topic, Nancy, tell our listeners a little bit, where are you located in the world? We have an international audience, and it's always nice to know where our speakers are located, where they're coming from to here.
I live on the central coast of California, which is in America, and I'm a California native, so I've been here a very long time.
Wonderful. And have you been at all impacted by the fires that were so devastating for many parts in California, your family?
No, we were fine. We were about an hour away from one of the big ones, and fires were really terrible and devastating, but I'm grateful to say that they didn't come to our area this time.
We are very glad to hear that you were safe, and of course that it was a terrible situation with the fires there. That was devastating for
Yes.
so many families there. Um, so Nancy, tell us a little bit about your background. What is your professional background? And feel free to share anything that you want our listeners to know about you.
Well, my very first career, and I do consider it a career, was full-time at home with my little ones. And during that time, I first earned a certificate as a childbirth educator and began teaching classes at first out of my home. And then after that, I took the second IBCLC exam, so 1986. And I began working at that time in private practice as well as uh, in a hospital, seeing every new mother and baby, even if she wasn't intending on breastfeeding. So it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that work. After my youngest was in school full time, I went back to school and earned my master's in clinical psychology and then worked on the licensing process to become a licensed marriage and family therapist. So I do that. I still help people with breastfeeding. I have done a lot of work with teen moms in a couple of different settings. I also, in the last maybe 10 years, have been doing a lot of international work, and I've been to 52 countries, not all for work, but some for work, and gotten to see what the state of mothers and fathers and babies are around the world a little bit. I realize I don't know it all, not even close, but I've gotten to have a little bit of a view of what life is like for new parents around the world.
Life for new parents around the world is wonderful that you have a wonderful background there and that you're able to travel and see how parenting, motherhood, and breastfeeding is around the world. That's wonderful. And thank you for sharing also that you were a full-time mom and you consider that as a career. It's lovely to hear that because I feel we don't give mothers, stay-at-home moms, enough credit for the hard work, they're doing at
I
home.
agree. The
Um,
hardest work I've ever done, but also by far the most rewarding. And
Most
my
rewarding.
babies are
Yeah.
all grown
Go
up, but
ahead.
I have no regrets about being home with them and taking a little longer to develop my career. It was worth all of it.
That's wonderful. And as you mentioned, you have been an IBCLC since the
Hmm.
80s, correct? Is that
Hmm.
correct? That's wonderful. So now in your long career there, did that change at all? I'm sure there's a lot of new information coming out, but would you say you practice today differently from when you first started out with all the new research we have or what developed over the years?
I don't think so because I should have mentioned that when I was a brand new mom, am very grateful that I found La Leche League. And a lot
Mm.
of the research that's come out since I had my babies has just verified things that I learned in that support group. And so
Mhm.
I don't think my practice has changed all that much. Some of the issues, of course, have changed. You have more mothers persevering with bigger problems, I think, so we have to be on top of our game helping her to solve her problems. But beyond that, I don't think it's that different. Oh, I don't know what to do
Hmm.
about that.
And you also mentioned that you are a marriage and family therapist,
Yes.
right? Wonderful. So does breastfeeding come up a
Oh,
lot
yes.
during, your
Oh,
session?
yes.
Yeah? Okay, tell us a little about
Well,
it. If you may share some
I
some of
do a
it.
lot of couples work, and so it's not
Hmm.
unusual for couples to come in because they're having a difficult marital adjustment now that there's one or subsequent babies in their household.
Hmm.
And sometimes part of their challenge includes breastfeeding issues, or she
Hmm.
has developed a postpartum disorder, depression, anxiety, and they've got questions about medications and that kind of thing as well. So it's not unusual for me to work with somebody who is also breastfeeding a baby. And I have over the years also had clients who actually want to do grief work about how their birth or their breastfeeding experience played out and the disappointment or the sadness that they
Hmm.
have that it wasn't what they had expected or longed for, what they see others experiencing and so forth. So that that I feel really privileged that I have my feet in both of these professions so that I'm able to
Hmm.
offer something based on a lot of knowledge and experience that I think probably is unique. A lot of marriage and family therapists don't really understand the mother baby experience in the same way.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to say that you must be in a very unique situation there that you have both backgrounds and you can kind of join these backgrounds together in your work there, and that's really wonderful in that you are counseling families who are dealing with disappointment, how their birth went, birth
Yes,
trauma is, and
yes.
finally it's being recognized that there is birth violence and birth trauma. And you are an expert in breastfeeding and birth issues and of course family counseling there. So that's it's a wonderful combination. I'm sure you're touching a lot of families' lives there with your good work.
Well, I love the combination. I have found it to be a wonderful marriage that is going to last a long time.
That's wonderful. Okay, let's talk also about the presentation. Your presentation here for us at Gold is titled Teens and Breastfeeding. So I can imagine that being a teens and breastfeeding, that has a whole bunch of challenges right there. Because if you're thinking of teenagers, they're still developing, their brains are still developing, right?
Yes.
And maybe they're wanting to go back to school after the baby is born. So tell us a little bit about what is so unique about teens and breastfeeding. How did you get to pick this topic? Why does this become like a important topic for you to present on? And tell us a little bit about the presentation as
Well,
well.
I think I got interested in it because I found myself in a place where I was working with a lot of teen moms. And I used to go in once a week to what our community calls minor parent program, which is the high school for the high school students who became pregnant. And so it was a great program because they had the girls bring their babies to school with them. And there were childcare workers who would hold babies and take care of the babies while moms took tests and things like that. But what I liked so much about it was it didn't force a separation on a young mom who didn't want to be separated from her baby, but also they encourage and support both the academic learning and the learning how to be a good parent. And so I thoroughly enjoy that program and have come to have immense respect for these young mothers who are trying to do it all in ways that more mature mothers, I know that working mothers have great challenges trying to do it all. I think, though, for these younger girls, that the challenges may be even more significant. And between cultural attitudes in America, anyway, about pregnant teenagers, parenting teenagers, between those attitudes and the barriers that we tend to create for these girls, we say, yeah, you need to breastfeed. And then in many, many, many instances, we take their babies from them all day and we don't give them a place to pump and we do this, that, and the other thing so that it we make it impossible for them. And I don't think that's the intent, but I think that's how it plays out. And the other thing that I think makes it unique for an adolescent is that their social needs are a little bit different than more mature adults, and that often gets ignored in the process of trying to support their parenting. And I think when we ignore it, that's a good way to put the end to breastfeeding because their social needs are so enormous and have to be considered in what we're doing with them. I could go on and on.
Absolutely. I know you. This is I can clearly hear the passion in your voice when you talk about this topic, and that is wonderful. And I can't wait to find out about your presentation. Quickly before I let you go, I know you need to go, and we appreciate that you're able to spend time with us between being busy and having appointments. What are you hoping that our listeners will take away from this presentation?
Well, if I had to choose one thing, I would hope that listeners would come away with some enthusiasm for working with adolescent mothers, um,
Mm,
because it really is rewarding work if we can set
mm,
aside some of the attitudes and some of the
right.
judgments and that kind of thing. So if I had to choose one thing, it would be that. But I would
Hmm.
also love to be somebody who gives information and tools that a lactation consultant or other perinatal provider could utilize as they work with adolescents who are parenting babies.
Very good. Thank you so much, Nancy Williams, for sharing your expertise, your time here with me, and to talk about your upcoming presentation.
Well, thank you.
It has been really a pleasure. Thank you, Nancy. And now to our listeners, the presentation Teens and Breastfeeding by Nancy Williams is part of the Gold Lactation Online Conference of 2019. Nancy will be presenting live on April 9th. For more information on this presentation and the other presentations in the Gold Lactation Online Conference, please go to goldlactation.com. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Bye bye.